5 minutes, it will take 3 minutes. Every table, anything you consider a biological waste, we are going to stick it. Each one on a single sticky note. No, don't come now. Like, look at those balls. We have sheets that are here. Later you see them on the many examples. Stick them here. One example, one sticky note. Please write boldly because we'll stack all these things. As you're writing, some other person will be bringing. Somebody be writing, other people will be bringing.
So that means we can
Bring the ones that are ready. Table 5, you have some already. Let someone bring.
I think it's done right.
No, when you're writing. Check your sticky notes on the sticky side. Please write on the other side. What I will use swaps.
Okay.
Do we agree? Use swaps. Yeah. Don't go until we agree. Sorry. No. That's what after becomes space after you have finished them. Use surgical needles. As many as 4 miles. Biological waste. Somebody said 4 miles.
No.
4 miles.
No.
Is 4 miles a biological waste?
No.
Gloves.
Group 1.
Gloves. No. Not just as gloves. Needles. Use.
Easy block.
Okay. The key word there is waste and then biological. Cadaver. Okay, cadaver. Urine bag. Use urine bag. Hand wipes. So many liquid waste from laboratory. Use gloves. Use specimen tissues. Use blood samples. Syringe and needle. We need more. Think outside the box. What can we consider the biological waste? Sample container. Tissues. Use needles and syringes. Soil balls. Blood samples. That's after your testing. Use blood. Okay, use. That is if you use the conical part, measure something. Please be careful. Use conical flask. So it depends on what you use it for. Use cotton wool. If I use that cotton wool and wipe my powder, cleanse my face, is it a biological waste?
Yes. Yes.
If I use cotton wool, touch alcohol and swipe my face,
yes.
Because if I use cotton wool, it becomes a biological.
It becomes a biological.
No. It's living on the culture media. Okay. Thank you. Placenta. Use sample bottle. Wonderful. We have a handful. So, a timer for everyone. So, our sticky notes are full. So, categories of biological waste. This one is straightforward. We have solid waste. Out of solid waste, you can see in bracket non-sharps. Then you have sharps. Because somebody might argue, are sharps not solid?
Yeah.
So there are non-sharps and then so they decided to break it down. Pathological waste, liquid waste, and then mixed waste. So let's just see, okay, who defines biological waste? A country, do you know that what can be a waste in Nigeria can be a raw material for another country?
Yeah.
So that's why this question is coming up. Who defines it? The country can define it. The state can define it. Regulatory agencies can define what a biological waste is. So there are laws, there are regulations, there's guidelines, even institutions. So if someone can be doing a research and his own research material will be the waste we are talking about now, because he needs it as an input for this. So there has to be some policies guiding, whatever will be defined as biological waste. So in this exercise, well, we will not distribute it. As we've been talking about it, the sticky notes with the examples of biology. So each of your group members post each sticky note on the flip chart with the categories of waste it fits into. Is it a solid waste? So let's take some examples. So I'll go back when I call it, then you will tell me whether it's a solid waste or a liquid waste or a sharp. So I'll just project this again. Good. So let's look at some of the things you have here. Use swabs. What are they? Hand, please. Okay, Dr. Damu. Solid waste. Non-sharp. Non-sharp. In the area of non-sharp. Yes. Solid gloves. Solid gloves.
Solid waste.
Solid waste in non-sharp. Swab sticks. Solid waste. Okay, like everybody. Use needles.
Solid waste.
Sharp.
Solid waste sharps. Now no good too much. Use urine bag. No, they said use urine bag. Solid waste. Not sharp. Petri dishes. Use petri dish.
Tissue.
Liquid waste from laboratory.
Cadaver.
Blood samples. The blood. Liquid. Cadaver. Okay, cadaver is here. What's cadaver?
Pathological waste.
We want to be sure we cover all categories. So cadaver has taken care of that. Okay. Culture media. Solid waste, right? Okay. Sputum. Liquid waste. Which is the least. Use wound dressing materials. They are solid. Okay. So it's only the least that
Radiological field.
radiological. Okay. But the bottom line is that we have tried to distribute, this into different categories. So why do we have to pay attention to waste? Reflect. Just reflect. So if I drop this question, why do we have to pay attention to waste? Because when you come to waste management, it's a big issue by itself. Why is it so? Who wants to try? We know the answer. Madam Pastor. To protect the environment. Why do you have to protect the environment? Exactly. This is the point. It's like the culture medium that will just scatter this infection in the environment. More answers.
Like development and people will have waste scavenger. There are those that forage the waste. So if you don't treat this way and you put it in the public, they will carry. They have family,
Oh,
they have friends,
God.
they will spread it to all
I'm
the
telling you.
So
So the question of why pay attention. He has mentioned some those scavengers, those boys that carry babangola. They not call it babangola. Once you drop a waste, they're already scavenging. Do you know that they in Abuja for some time they noted that they were picking used face masks. You can wash somebody caught it then on camera washing the face mask, and they will bring if you're selling the new one 100 naira, they will sell out 20 naira. And market women before we are buying from them. So we must bear waste is an issue. Food container. They will just collect it. You see these cleaners, some cleaners even they will just cook, culture me, they will just cook out what it wash it, and somebody is ready to buy from them.
you know, it's also give us another deal. People use needle. If you don't have needle crusher, it's not this establishment, and you spread it that way. They pick you to use to pick a vegetable, all these seafood, and then you throw these tomatoes. So there are things who consider trivial or overlooked, but it will be magnified in the long run.
Yes.
Some of us are drink, and all this compulsion.
Those containers they recycle.
Yes, and the containers are found from the patient's waste bin, where all sort of waste are being.
I'm telling you.
All these cleaners.
The National Orientation Agency has one is not a health-related agency, but they are for national orientation. They are supposed to be telling, like that time they were advertising, if you drink more, crush the container. Because we are using these containers to do all sorts of things. They have machines to recap anything on them. They can recap this water. They say you're traveling around local jar. These boys are selling on the road. You think you're drinking Swan, you're drinking Eva, like they just recap. So we must pay attention because there are people that are making a living out of our waste. And they bring it's a merry-go-round, it comes back to us. You know, when you're hungry and you're on a trip, you can just, they are selling on the road. If you're thirsty, you buy water. So you can never know who will fall a victim. Even ourselves will fall victim. All the safety, Dr. Honey is there. Talking about port of entry. The day he's hungry and they bring one food, he will buy it and eat. You know, when you're hungry, hunger is a leper. Don't be glad when hunger comes. So hungry man, and when you buy the apple on the road, you don't want to buy from the other. You want to buy apple like a big man.
I saw the patients with food poisoning, all categories. And also, when I dig deeper, I found that they must have eaten something from the outside. I now wash apple. All this roasted corn. Yeah,
I love corn.
And when
I buy that corn and pear, I might be selling this. I will be looked at by saying, I will buy my corn and say, the fire is
yeah,
that's what they make sure they give it up again. Oh my God. So we are reflecting on why we must pay attention to waste. What is at risk? Who is at risk? Increased risk if waste material contaminated with biological materials are not handled and treated properly. All of us, we are all at risk. That's what we'll be discussing. What are potential incidents that can occur? We all know. All sorts. The one thing is clear. Don't ever think you're one director somewhere, you're doing big math somewhere. It can happen to anybody. Let me share an example of what happened to me. We were having a program, and they brought the program. So in fact, it was a Sandia program at Transport in Abuja. If you know categories of hotel, Transport is like topping the list. That's where they took the program. And then we had, there's a way in Transport. these big fish like this during lunch, then it's buffet, they just put. So
So
Mrs. Tubi was, you go and cut. Tubi ate the same fish, she picked the fish. I also picked the fish from a corner after enjoying 2 hours. In fact, we were going that day, and I was supposed to make a trip to the east. I had a flight for the following day, okay, 2 days after. And when we got home, I noted that 2 hours later, I was uncomfortable. From being uncomfortable, I started vomiting. I was rushed to the hospital like 2 a.m. because I just woke my mother and said, no, I'm dying. I would have to go to Federal Staff Clinic. I was there for 48 hours. I ate in transport. You know, sometimes you say, oh, this big hotel. That's why I'm happy when we see things and we are complaining.
Let me tell you a story. One of the boy died in America. The children, they went for this picnic and they ate. Him alone fell sick. He had this E. coli. It's that dangerous that 5 days. You know what I call renal toxicity, factors, kidney shutdown. Jesus. By the time he finished with him, he had all kind of thromboembolic episodes.
Oh God.
I ended up having kidney transplant.
Oh,
He survived. So they what happened? Why only this boy fell sick? The interrogation began found that when they were bringing the meats, one of them fell down.
oh,
Yes.
And when he fell down, that place used to be this ruminant, cattle, whatever. So now the person carrying the waiter, clean it up and put
and
it
put
back.
it back.
And that boy happened to be
The one that ate it. That's what happened to me. To be ate there, other people must have been eating. I was the one that landed it.
So maybe that part fell down.
You know what I suspected? They not have coming down. Because they were cooking it, and it's a large, you don't have what they can put a whole boat like this. They don't come and cut it inside. So one day we were having a conference, this Rover College, they were having a conference, and I was representing my organization. So I was making a presentation, and I told them that, you see, this patient doctor thing, you know that in the morning you could be a doctor, and in the evening you will become a patient. So I was sharing this experience, it was about the infection control and resilience. I said, you can be a doctor, clinician, then in the evening. So when we are talking about quality management system in the entire hospital setting, everybody should pay attention. That's nothing like the patient. Then some people treat patients so shabby, forgetting that this one day, and I know you see this when they get sick, they have to try to give it the letter.
No, but I
They are so scared. It's not about you. They're so scared. But if it's a question,
Ivy. I can add very easy. I get my
so you see what we are going to do now. Issue. Now, come on. Let me leave your matter. So each group will be assigned one category of waste. What are you going to do? Develop a process to mitigate the risk from this category of waste material. You know, kind of flow chart. What will you do? Write or draw your process. Just a few minutes. So we'll go back to the category. So table 1, you're taking any example of a solid waste that is non-sharp. You're going to develop a process to mitigate, you know, that waste. Table 2, you take sharp. Table 3, pathological waste. We are talking about waste disposal now. You don't just carry go and dispose. Develop, even if it's a flow chart, you know, or you want to just write. And then table 4, liquid waste. And then table 5, mixed waste. What do you want to do? Okay, non-pathogenic.
Okay, no problem.
Oh, that one, there's no banana in this now. So, okay, you can also take a liquid waste.
So let's do
No,
this.
we don't
have
All right. Is it all you that said that's why?
You're not joking.
So, solid waste, non-sharp, Just 3 minutes. How will you be getting remember from cradle to grave.
Blood bank.
As you're writing, remember cradle
Not
to
how you
grave.
use the blood bag. That's why you got inside. Where you dispose of the blood bag.
But let's always assume that there's blood inside. But
Not assume, there's always blood inside.
there's always blood.
There is blood. Even the urine said everything. There's blood. No, so the blood is still showing.
Okay. And even you have urine.
In the urine, it's not completely
We
empty.
have limited
There
time.
are some urine bags, but it's no problem.
Okay, let's do the urine bag. Let's do the blood bag.
Blood bag. Blood bag. Expired blood.
Not the type of use of the blood.
No, let's assume it's expired. Okay, it's expired blood.
After this food.
How do we?
You cannot separate that.
Cannot dispose it like pathological waste.
It's a matter of we need to notice.
Blood size, only blood first. You got to remove blood first. Dispose of the there are two things that one. Having blood, I got to dispose it with blood inside. I got to remove blood first.
So they are disinfecting it first.
Process will spread, taking care of it.
Yeah. If you're not okay, regarding if you're not this one is like yeah. Those are examples. Let's try those two examples. Let's check this one. No,
The rough is over my head.
Let's do an example and look at it.
Okay, that rough is my head. This one doesn't have time.
Okay.
So you can say next to the small time so that I can
So let your process reflect from cradle to grave.
No, radiology. No, Okay, either which we are going to segment.
I think the same issue.
Let's take one. Let's take one and flow with it. That's all.
He has taken one example.
Just is not back. Blood inside. With the expired blood inside. Not back.
You really
If anybody is ready, please go ahead.
Ecology work, what it is.
Don't they have 15 containers? What do you call So let's know all these things they do together. Okay, they bring it together.
All this are in a waste bag.
Yes,
Together.
yes.
That's what it is.
So there are 5 good paper.
Every paper.
Yeah,
Paper. Every paper.
yeah, paper.
That's very
Any paper. Okay, yeah. For steps. Step 1. Then arrow.
Are you ready? Okay. So you appoint a representative that will come and share with the class. Then we can critique.
So you get friends.
No, just like
Group 1, come and share.
arrows.
Okay, 2 more minutes.
And you have transportation. So you
Package the first.
irrigation of the state.
There's a background of there's the next part, transportation.
To dispose of transportation. Yes.
And where is it? Where is it going to? Is it going to the market? Which are disposal? Let's qualify them. I see I do the market. That's why it's there.
Okay, group 1, come and share. Group 2, come and share.
Appropriate disposition.
There's no perfect answer.
So appropriate for some consideration, some area.
Okay, listen up, listen up. So as it's sharing, let us pay attention to know whether they covered all aspects of waste management. All aspects of waste management, which just before you stop, you start sharing. So steps, what you're sharing, did it cover segregation? No, stop writing. Stop writing. Did it cover collection, how you will store, how you will transport, how you will treat, and how you will dispose? That's what we want to learn at the end of the day. Let's make our mistakes. You can stop now, please. That's it. So that we can learn what we're supposed to learn. That's why I said no perfect answer. When he's sharing now, let's pay attention and see whether what they have told us covers segregation, cover collection, storage, transport, treatment, and final disposal. Even if it didn't cover. So bear in mind that that is the way you should have, so please, over to you.
I'm standing on the
That's in class now.
So we are presenting on the solid waste management chart in brackets. So part of what we put together as a flowchart in the first definition of the strategy that we have with this policy. That's a additional sheet. Then from the policy, we now come up with our issue. There's a issue to train our personnel. Then what are the training to provide the necessary criteria? We have part of the material that we have a sharp very sharp container. And then we have a finance to provide the crusher. We want to build our value. Then after that, the next is the solution of the collection of the use. As soon as the innovated, since you know that it's sharp, you don't need to build a sharp. And the sharp container. You have the crusher or crush. Then after that, all the sharps are the collection. Then after the collection, and after the installation, the vent, and then after that, the management now go to the process so that we actually after the burying, after the shaft, after burying, the first installation, after installation, then we bury the landscape and the process. That is very important. We are looking to whether it what we are doing is actually working. If it's not working, we go over it again.
Yeah.
What's happening?
Atama, I like the aspect where there are processes that will happen before administrative procedure. That's where the administrative control, because it's something, it's a process that is happening before implementation of any process. And I like that there's a policy, and then the policy from the policy now you have guidelines. From that guideline, you tell people how you now develop your SOPs for waste management before you now enter into segregation. So it's good. The way you started setting the pace is perfect. So, step one, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, madam. Okay. Prof, you want to say something?
So this is an issue. Waste management generally
Yes,
in Nigeria.
yes.
We have not gotten it right.
No, we've not gotten it.
Domestic one
We
everywhere.
have not got it.
It's a problem in Nigeria. And some of us have been speaking about on the way forward. As we are looking at our policy, how many hospitals have needle crusher?
It's true.
Big hospital,
They don't
how
have.
many?
Except
That's
the
what we're
village.
talking about.
All that, you have needle crusher.
It's not
No, they're not even.
It's not
There's one this is when you search, you have a mobile tool is electrical piece. It crushes everything, melts.
Okay, you go straight to the incinerator.
You see, the whole idea is as we come here, we take control of everything, care management, we're talking about administration and performance. We tell them, look, from what we have done here, there is a problem. For us to manage this, whatever the shafts, it needs to be destroyed. It's not enough autoclaving, I can't dump it in the public, this is not good. So something has to be done. I don't know the appeal we make to government, the policymakers, those minor things be provided. However, I thought by this COVID, all those things have been available by now.
I thought so too. We thought so that the health system will use the COVID era to strengthen itself.
When I was restoring, it was politics.
Politics. Okay, we are in table 1. Look at your paper.
Yes. We actually look at it very broad. Not,
which waste you
that's solid waste.
Okay.
Like you has rightly mentioned, what Prof is actually saying.
Why are you reporting what Prof is saying? Are you writing this down? Are you writing this Okay, let's hear him.
Even though the SOPs might be there, at times, how many of us adhere to the
Madam, present what you're doing.
Waste segregation starts from the point of generation, and that is done based on 3 SOPs. The general waste goes to the general waste bag, which is all coded. The shafts, the highly infections, they goes to the coded bag. Waste are generated right from segregated right from the point of.
That's your solid waste. You're
Yes.
talking generally now.
Yes, solid waste. We did not just pick anyone, but solid waste general. Both the shafts.
Are you kidding me now?
Yeah, that is all.
Oh yeah, sit down. Is it not obvious that
You invent something in your paper here.
We'll have the chance of laughing or which waste are you treating? Oh, pathological waste.
There is still standards. So we go across the SOPs. We contaminate using formalin. Then after the contaminating, we take to the incinerator, other incinerator or do deep burial. That's how we handle pathological waste.
If you don't have an incinerator, but the important thing that they have to treat that cadaver before they take it to the final. No, the carcass.
Yes.
Animal carcass. Let's give them
Alabama.
Small Alabama.
No, it's Alabama.
You got Alabama now. You got, yes. Level 4. We are running now. Level 4. Oh, fine.
Our own is the liquid waste. So first of all, what we look at is the liquid waste and where it's being generated. So, in the fact that we are in a biological so we consider medical, blood and urine. That's the one. Now, first of all, the collection, how do you collect the liquid waste in the hospital laboratory? And think about the container which the sample is being collected from. It is urine container. It is already a urine container. Fine. It's okay then. If it's blood, it probably must be in a blood specimen container. Then if it is let's say a blood bag, you already use blood bags. Fine, it's still collected. So most of them are already having a source of collection. Then what we do now, we're not talking about segregation, putting them where they belong. This waste now we talk about are highly infectious. And in medical waste segregation, you have highly infectious, you have infectious, you have non-infectious. So this ones now goes to the highly infectious container. Then I think before that we use nylon-proof, liquid-proof nylon to pack it, just as the tied down. Then we talk about treatment before storage. Here, we reverse it. We treat after this, then you treat. How do you treat this waste now have been collected in containers? you can autoclave, just carry it as it is, add 50 to 250 minutes of water inside, then autoclave it direct. You have automated and it's infected. Then the next one is storage. If you are not transporting it there, they talk about how you store it. Then you can store it in normal container, the appropriate container where you get. Then before you talk about transportation, we are going to disposal. Then using either the public transporter or public waste disposal transporters aside the particular to that particular lab or hospital, or you use your normal
or your cleaner takes it to
the fine. Then this particular one you incinerate straight. That is the disposal at the final point.
All right. I disagree with something, Rachel.
Atama. Okay. Is it full or half? Full. What are you talking
I had mentioned that you collect before segregation.
Yes, I have that.
Is that how you collect your waste? You segregate your waste in the laboratory. You collect and then you now come and start segregating.
From the point of generation.
That is what you are expected to say. I had that clearly. So you segregate at
Okay. Finally, you need to leave that.
Well, she gave us a tough one.
Just not honest.
Mixed waste.
Yes, mixed waste. And for us, mixed waste can either be mixed biological waste, which can either be chemical, radioactive, or general biological waste. And it could also be biological waste that are mixed. So we look at it from those two perspectives. And we concluded in our group that the first thing we want to do is we want to segregate the waste into their various units. And so after segregation, we want to disinfect the waste at that point. And after disinfection, you want to pack them appropriately. And from there, you want to use appropriate means of transportation to the final destination. And at the final destination, based on the appropriate modality, then you can treat the waste.
Okay. So, Atama, what is important here is not about a water Atama or app. These are just jokes that we use to trade. Okay. Everybody understood the concept of managing this waste, and that is what the exercise, just a process to mitigate the risk. Because you're managing the waste appropriately means you're trying to mitigate the risk of infection, and there has to be a process. So the general concept, concept we all have now and take home is that there has to be policy in place about waste management. There has to be guidelines and SOPs, of waste management and level of training for those who are handling this waste. I think you mentioned something about training, then appropriate segregation, highly infectious, and then the non-infectious. And then from there, after segregating our waste, then we need to also, treat our waste. After segregating, you collect, you segregate and collect. Some people will say collect and segregate. Let's not go into that argument because it depends on what you're working with. So you stop. Somebody just mentioned that you were saying something that they missed. There's no mixing here because some people after that collection there could be a temporary holding before you transport. So you store it temporarily and then transport it appropriately. And even there's a system where even after you can see transport and then treatment. You see, so some systems can segregate the waste, just store it and then transport it to where they will treat it before they, just like you have your surgical gown from the theater. They will treat it there. somebody takes it to the laundry. We've gone into a teaching hospital where in their laundry they train. They have a section. If these girls are coming from the theater, put it this way. If it's coming from work, put it this way. At that point, that's where they are trained to solve it. So when you're looking at a slide, look at your system, look at the slide, and then you can rearrange it the way it happens in your facility. Okay. Then final. So look at your process. Are all these components included? If not, add them into your process. Okay. So non-sharp waste management. You can see, you know, the containers that we were saying that was on Monday. Where you don't have these beautiful ones, it's only the partners that bring this.
Yeah.
Most teaching hospitals, even you will just be asking them, they don't even segregate the waste.
Yes.
As Prof was saying, they take so many things for granted. When we don't have these beautiful containers, what do? Improvise. Improvise. Improvise and level appropriately. So there's no excuse. And what pains me is that you see professionals that should know doing the wrong thing. So sharp waste collection, sharp containers, closable, and when closed, not reopenable. When you close it, so you know, if you want to add anything, they always have provision for the window where you drop things. Okay, then they should be autoclave. Container size and location are critical. Minimize handling of used sharp. So when you bring those small ones, it's good so that is it supposed to be full?
No.
3/4?
Yes.
Everybody should know that. Okay. Avoid overfilling. Caution. Consider substitution. Container reuse. You see these containers are not disposable per se. So when you take it there, if it's incinerator, they empty it, they have the way of contaminating it, and then you can bring it down. So waste storage and transport. So they have collected from different facilities. You can see those hazard bags being used there. They have a holding point. So from here now, maybe a vehicle. In fact, this one is like it's already been loaded somewhere. So these are just waste storage and transport. And then waste treatment options. What are the options that we have as we're rounding up? Cradle to grave responsibility applies. Do it yourself. In the area of do it yourself, you have to have standard practice for liquids. We all know that, we have agreed. Autoclaves and other solid waste treatment devices generally require what? A meeting. We said this morning, usually by local entity, but sometimes you need emission mechanisms, treatment options. So have someone else do it. So if in your facility, you people are the one managing your waste, you have to also follow guidelines, follow SOPs, know exactly what to do and who are the person. If you are engaging like Lagos now, they are engaging a company. Not a company, I think they are government that last month. They are government agency. Have someone else do it. They have companies under them. So there are few contractors. So even the government agencies now have other so they sublet in Yaba, you covering this area. You will cover a Keja. Different companies, covering different areas because Lagos is big. Less liability, but it requires due diligence. So you outsource, but there has to be monitoring. When you outsource, you have to train them. You have to make sure the pay is good for those companies you are subletting to, so that they will not cause problem for you. Okay, I think the one of Lagos, they are very well trained, and then because when you are outsourced, you have less liability, and then likely lower cost option unless quantities are large. I'm sure in Lagos was the only example we can use to say this outsourcing, and they have large quantity. I'm sure the company is also paying those other companies very well. Require your transporter to do what? Generate manifests of types and amounts of bio waste transported. So it's not like, they will just come carry. Anything they are carrying from NIMA, they will document. If it is, I don't know what the checklist looks like, but if it is like how many bags they carry, because before they will apply for their payment, they will justify that payment. How much work they were able to do and what quantity of waste they helped to lift from NIMA, from Lagos State Teaching Hospital, all those.
We used to sign when we come to pick up those wastes.
Okay.
The column you sign.
Of course. Because when they are applying for their payment, that's what they will use. They have to provide certificate of destruction. So this is where the system is working properly. These things are seamless. The system is just working. So when you come as a supervisor, as a manager, they make your work easier because the system is working. I just pray that someday what happens in Lagos, other state governors, I think they always go for governors forum. What do they go there to discuss? If they have the way of good, they are politicians, discuss politics, but also discuss how do we also improve, deliver on our mandate to our people. These are words.
And they'll tell you
How did they do?
No, that was a prayer. Not
No,
a this administration. They were doing it before.
Shebi,
Anytime I visit
the
your
next
state, I
governor,
see something, I come to my state.
I do it. But there was one that was very natural. I know a governor that is not working in the state and he was given an award, best performing governor. I don't give my governor, best governor, for what? You get for me. Oh, that's you get for me. When they get my governor, they take my governor. They take the award. I said, they have got everything. I will say. If I got there, look. Is he working? So, intermediate versus final treatment. We are closing now. We promise to close by 4, so we're already 5 minutes, behind schedule. So, intermediate versus final. So, for the intermediate treatment, please do know that usually performed by worker protection. The intermediate treatment performed for worker protection. Autoclaving, most common method of intermediate. After autoclaving, there has to be a final, standard microbiology lab practice must be there. Performed before transport to final treatment. Then final treatment, much more effort involving. Permitting, the final is like most times the incinerator that some people bury. If they have, before you can bury, you must have permits to be digging somewhere to bury. Permitting, monitoring, record keeping, reporting, because it's not enough to say, oh, we did and bury. A lot of things, those who are environmentalists know that after the bury, so what? That's where the environmental issue now comes from. Okay. So, record keeping, reporting, risk management, environmental impact of what you have buried. Okay, so 2 options: on-site treatment by facility staff or off-site treatment by disposal contractor. We are closing now. Treatment technologies. We have seen this: autoclave, incinerator, chemical treatment, microwave, alternative technologies, irrigation, high temperature pyrolysis. You have microwave and others. The list is endless. So look at this: treated biological waste. What happens when it's treated? Do you know that what you have on the left is what you have on the right?
Yes.
When it is treated. But still, this is not the final. It's a biological solid waste that has been treated by an acceptable method is considered non-contaminated and non-hazardous. The liquid can be sewer disposed, and the solids put in disposing at this point, you're like, okay, I've treated it, is safe. Most localities require that the contaminated medical waste, especially sharps, be made unrecognizable. You see where you're coming from. So you need to really, you know, do your needle, what's the word now? Crusher. Crusher. If it is paper, then you shred it. Okay, especially sharps, be made on record before being landfill. A shredding step must be included after treatment. So you can see pathological waste treatment. They can treat a whole cow. That's a cow. Dump it into that's an autoclave. Large industrial autoclave. You know, dealing with that. So if we have liquid waste treatment, what are we supposed to do? Drain disposal, sanitary sewer, autoclave following validated procedure. We also do chemical inactivation. Example, 10% chlorine bleach overnight before drain disposal. Use engineered treatment system. It could be on-site or off-site. We have done this while pay attention to it. Let's just go to the final point that says, finalize your process and present it to the group. We have done some exercise that we don't need to repeat. So this is our wrap up on biological waste. And then let's look at the key messages, whether we were able to, you know, but remember, if you go, before you sleep, take 30 minutes and go through what we did today. So that by the time we come tomorrow, when you're sharing your take home, I don't have to correct what you say. Okay? Because you will be teaching back. When you go, you're supposed to step down. Please. Yes, please.
There's a shredder somewhere there on the table and shred you need to immediately. That's the
Shred.
Yeah, they shred
The crush.
The crush or the shred?
Shredder
is a I mean, maybe I'm the one wrong. You crush the needle. So let's crush the needle.
Yes.
So
Why you shred paper?
What I'm thinking, shredding, the shredding step was included after treatment of the shaft. After treatment or before treatment.
they shredded.
After treatment.
It's after treatment. After treatment.
Yes.
And they are telling you, yes, it's the treatment too. But it's not the final.
Not everybody.
No, and it's not everybody. The shredded thing and all that. Whatever you are using in your facility that is working for you, use it. Some people don't even have this shredder or crusher. But the important thing, after using biological waste, after generating the waste, collect appropriately, treat properly, dispose, store properly, transport properly, train the people handling this so that they don't come back. What goes around comes around, and then dispose appropriately.
But please, there's something I need to understand. Please, there are some waste that you don't actually like staining rooms where you do staining like smears, TV smears, where the rot is placed on the sink and directly it drains down to the shock away. What actually happens? Does it have a coming back to the environment or how?
That sock away. Is it not environment? And if you have a sock away here, you have a borehole there. What do you think is that?
So what?
I guess the whole way comes out there.
So I know the sand will happen, but it's not always on the sand. That's why before you go to the borehole, you call the experts. They will come and tell you where your sock away your compound. So the sock away should be like this, so that you don't put it the other way around.
If the water says the water is from the bubble, you can tell that the volume might try inside the water. It's all done.
Where is it coming from? Maybe your neighbor's sock away is not too far. Madam, what goes into the sink and goes into the it's also going out. I pity those who are in the environmental, they have so much in it. How do we mitigate it? You treat it before you put it into the sink. That's what this waste management is saying. Don't assume because there's an open sink. People just take blood, they pour it to the sink.
I want to understand. I want to understand what is what was read. No, this is what he's saying. Now, let me
What we are closing now. You are all holding.
I think he answers the question. I think it's more holistic. From the point starts out of how do you design your facilities. And that's why most laboratories, they are usually put towards one extreme in a way. Now what she's saying is, say I'm doing gram stain for E. coli, or I'm doing gram stain for MDR-TB. I am washing off the stain.
Okay, while you're she's not you're talking about staining
Yes.
at that point.
But however, madam, don't forget that the new trend now is you decontaminate the sputum even before you stain. So by decontaminating the sputum, the risk of infection has been
So are we looking at the chemical of the stain or the biological agent?
both, either with the biological agent.
That's what I'm asking. Which one are we looking at? The biological agent. By the time you flame when you're staining, you make that smell stick better on the slide.
Yes, that's suppose.
Suppose.
But some will still definitely.
Then let me tell you that those zero risk anywhere. We'll just try to do what we can do to bring down that level of risk to minimum. Not that don't go thinking that anything you will do. We'll still fall sick, no matter what we do. So our take home key messages. Sorry, sir, key messages. If not, we won't go. Table 5, number 1 bullet.
Waste should be segregated into appropriate waste types according to the risk it presents.
The story of biological waste industry in different types.
Table 3.
There are different treatment methods that are appropriate according to the waste that according to the risk the waste type presents.
Table 4. Oh, 2.
Although legal requirement varies according to location, the basic principle of biological waste disposal and treatment remain the same due to risk associated
With each type. So on that note, your action plan, right?
with.
What more?
Action plan.
When you go, read what we did today so that we can read. You see this action plan, this one is different from the first one. This one is talking about what more do I need to know or do? How will I acquire the knowledge or skill? How will I know that I have succeeded? How will I use this new learning in my job? So I want to end here and okay, we took only 15 minutes, out of the time we have. Oh my goodness. So all of you are tired. Go and sleep.